Now, many of you already know my stance on exclusivity. I'm not a fan of exclusives. I don't like the practice. It's never been appealing to me. But here's the thing. There's something that I do not like and I dislike way more than exclusivity. And that practice is money hatting. There's nothing worse for the consumer than one company basically finding a way to keep and block that game away from the consumer under the condition that the consumer spends more money to be able to get access to that game, pretty much buying their platform. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Before we go into this, I wanted to go ahead and showcase, in my opinion, what I think a general view of this money hatting is from some PlayStation users. You see, I've been mentioning the word money hatting in the last few days, and I've been wanting to get a reaction from some of the PlayStation players to see exactly what it is they think. And I think I've gotten what I think is necessary to establish where I want to go. You see, there are these two comments, and one of them simply said Microsoft should have money hatted harder. An unethical practice, in my opinion, because it is anti-consumer. It's not illegal because there are no laws against it. However, it is unethical because it tries to scarf the consumer of more money that they would not have otherwise needed to spend. This other comment basically said, a company worth $3 trillion and can't lock down one game sounds like jealousy and hating. They were accusing me for having pointed out the money hatting that goes on with PlayStation. They were accusing me of hating because, somehow Microsoft could not get in the game and also carry out this, unethical practice. Now, here's the crazy thing about all of this. You can actually build your platform with a good value proposition. You can build it in a way where audiences want to actually hop in and enjoy what it is that you're doing based on the merits of your platform. A game like Marvel Spider-Man 2 was a solid proposition. It really did allow for entry into the PlayStation platform by a lot of people. At this time, I'd already basically, gotten my PC. I still had my PlayStation 4 and I think Pro at the time. And I remember seeing some of my hardcore PC friends actually entertaining the thought of getting a PS4. One of my buddies who had never, I don't remember if he'd ever owned any consoles outside of Nintendo, bought a Spider-Man branded PlayStation 4 Pro. I was shocked. Was it the Pro or the PS4? I can't remember the one that they were selling at the time, but he bought the red one. I was like, bro, you really surprised me. That was a console seller based on the platform wanting to add value to its own community and its own audience. In contrast to that, a game like Final Fantasy is actually a money-hatted game. It's a game that PlayStation purposefully paid for in order for them to block it from approaching the Xbox platform. This practice actually has put Xbox in a position, or Xbox players, where if they want to play this game, they either had to go buy themselves another console, a PlayStation 5, or maybe move to build a PC. Now, here's the thing. Xbox is not guilt-free from money hatting. I remember back in the 2016s or something when Tomb Raider was actually coming out. I think it was Rise of the Tomb Raider. This game eventually got money hatted by Xbox. I remember, as somebody who played Tomb Raider back in the day on PC and was looking forward to continuing the series on the PlayStation because the reboot had just kicked in, I was extremely upset with Xbox for actually having done that. And I was like, I'm not going to go spend $500 to play Tomb Raider because this is a franchise that I'd been playing from the PC days back, when we were young, and, Tomb Raider was so cool. I mean, it was the ultimate, explorer character that you had in a 3D sense. And those who had the, PlayStation games, they understood that PlayStation had been a pivotal part of Tomb Raider as well, and they were also equally upset, and rightfully so. What we've seen, though, is that PlayStation community has changed drastically. In seeing these comments, it kind of saddens me to say, where was, your wrath when PlayStation started to basically double down or triple down on the same exact practice that most PlayStation players were actually upset about back then? And I think this is something that we need to go back and basically, reevaluate how we're looking at this console competition and the conversation, because competition is one thing. Ethics is also another thing, because the consumer is at the heart of this entire conversation in terms of gaming. The final thing that I wanted to go ahead and point out, and I think what really does point it out very clearly for us, is just the fact that when you think about this whole shenaniganry going on, it appears that this particular money hatting practice is now moving from anti-consumer and inching its way little by little into becoming anti-developer. You see, if we take Nintendo, for instance, Nintendo will make its own IPs. If they want to make a third-party IP, they'll basically have the IP being made for their own console. They're not necessarily or their own handheld, whatever you want to call it. They don't seem, in my opinion, necessarily too invested in wanting to block a game for their own advantage, simply because they understand the value proposition that they bring. Like a game like Astral Chain. This is a game that had been on my mind for years. I've been wanting to play it, but my first hurdle was I didn't have a Nintendo Switch. And then my kids were of age, and I was like, man, I got to get a Nintendo Switch. And then still looking at the price, I just have to sacrifice and get my kids their fun kiddie games, and I still haven't played Astral Chain. There are other games I can play, but it's just one of those things where I'm looking and saying, man, I wish this game would come to console, but I understand that Nintendo was heavily involved in a game like this, just like PlayStation was involved in Marvel Spider-Man, and Spider-Man 2. However, a game like Stellar Blade, which was also, in my opinion, one that was going to be going to every possible platform, because we remember Project Eve or something, the name of the game when it was first unveiled, had the Xbox, logo on there that it was going to Xbox. So imagine if people were expecting this game was going to Xbox, they were building the library on Xbox, and they decided as they were moving into the new generation, they transitioned to getting themselves a Series X or Series S, only to find out that Stellar Blade was not going to be coming. What's happened now is the consumer has been harmed because PlayStation, wanted to basically get an unfair advantage over Microsoft. I think this particular money hatting basically has now, put us in a position that we're in today. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, you really have to think about it. Game Pass, and I don't know if to call it a blessing or to call it a curse. Where we are right now looking at, Game Pass and looking at the Bethesda offerings and looking at even the Activision offerings, these are pretty much as a result of Xbox taking a survivalist approach in order for them to go ahead and just stay relevant in the market, because the money hatting got out of hand. It really did. Let me show you guys a few more examples, because I think this is something that we need to take a very good look at, because as much as people may be, in a sense, cheering this practice on, they need to understand that the ramifications are also insane. Sometimes they could be good because, yes, they could drive competition, as much as I call it unethical, but I don't need to see anybody from the other aisle pointing dirty fingers at Xbox for actually taking and capitalizing on a situation in what I think is an ethical and even a legal way. Remember when Deathloop was a timed exclusive with PlayStation? Remember when also Ghostwire Tokyo was also a timed exclusive as well? And then Starfield was slated to become a timed exclusive, and this is when Xbox went ahead and acquired Bethesda and made Starfield, an exclusive to the platform. Now it seems like Xbox is looking and saying this doesn't necessarily fit our strategy. Starfield might still remain an exclusive. I think it will. I know people are hopeful. It's one of those things I think Xbox is doing. They continue to keep their name in the news. As much as the PR may not be the best thing, but they're bringing a game like Indiana Jones because it's it's basically imperative that they make money out of this game. So they're coming with this approach, and they're looking and seeing that exclusivity is not really working for them, because if Machine Games tries to lock this game down to just the PlayStation platform, it might harm that studio. And you don't want what happened with other games, which they were probably good games. I'm not saying Indiana Jones is going to be good. I'm not an Indiana Jones fan, so I can't tell. But at the end of the day, they may not get the sales that they may be expecting. And I think these things are happening all over the place, and even developers are starting to rethink now their entire premise. And Square Enix is one of those who is in that particular precarious predicament where they've looked at it all and they decided, man, we need to go shake hands with Xbox, because if we continue to do this exclusivity thing, we'll be sitting at 3 million copies of a game that probably could have sold more, while other games like Black Myth Wukong is just coming in and eating our lunch. Now, yes, as to the quality of the Final Fantasy game, I don't know. Final Fantasy fans have mixed reactions from what I've read with Final Fantasy 16. However, why take that risk and harm your brand? Because they know they want to bring out more Final Fantasy games. On the other hand, Black Myth Wukong is not excluding Xbox, totally from the equation. They seem like they're going to be bringing the game to Xbox. There's announcements that the game is coming because they want to expand their brand. And once they can launch the Black Myth game on Xbox, they understand that they're going to get more customers as they move into their sequel. Many of you may or may not know there are actually Easter eggs, according to a lot of people, that there will be a sequel. Actually, 3 different Black Myth game names were registered in terms of the trademark. So this is how you build your brand. So at the end of the day, I think money hatting is a practice that's going to eventually harm the industry as time goes on. Consumers are at some point going to get tired of it, And more than likely, PlayStation will lose a lot of goodwill if they do not find a different way to add value to their platform. Another thing that I think is it's also going to be, in a sense, unattractive as time goes on for developers. I think what you're going to be seeing is timed exclusivity deals at the most for developers who may have a good product on hand and need to make money. But ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't, in my opinion, resound that PlayStation is a brand that I have any confidence in. If they have to play this way, then they're not even up to par with Nintendo. If anything, I think Xbox is the one that's offering something unique enough to be able to say yes. From a brand perspective, from having your own value proposition, Nintendo has its value proposition solidified. Xbox has its value proposition solidified with its subscription service and what it's doing in bringing games everywhere else. PlayStation is still living in the ancient world. They're about to join us, though. Remember, it took them a while to come to PC, even when most of us had been saying, yeah, they're going to come to PC very soon. What we're looking at now is them basically just adopting the platform as part of their own, which I think might help them a little bit. But hey, who knows? It's PlayStation. They usually do what PlayStation does. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching the video. Appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.